In this tutorial, I will teach you how to use Spring Security Framework effectively. We will be covering these important topics from the framework. We will talk about what authorization and authentication is. We will see how to log in users that are stored in memory. We will see how to log in users that are stored in the database. And we will also see how to provide custom error pages. And we will end with some special topics like how to provide custom login screens. And we will talk about some password encoder methods. And regarding the authorization and authentication plan, I will just give you a basic idea what authorization and authentication is. So authentication is authenticating or verifying a user using their username and password. So the username and password is the usual authentication approach. And once we authenticate, authorization helps us to control what each user can access. For example, in this project, for this tutorial purpose, we will have 3 pages. One page for home, and this page will be accessible for everyone. So any user without login, so without authentication and authorization, they can access the home page. That will be the default page available for everyone. And there is a user home page that will be accessible for every normal users. So any user who has a role of user, we will talk about that in detail in the tutorial. So it is just a normal user. So normal users will have access to the user's home, and there will be an admin user. And the admin user will have access to both admin home and user home along with the normal home directory that is accessible for everyone. So we will be implementing this, and we will be talking about the Spring Security Framework in detail. So without further delay, let's get started. For this tutorial, I have prepared a very simple project. I will walk you through the code. I have only 2 classes here. The first class is the main method, so the application will start from here. And I have a content controller, and from here we will provide the mapping for 3 pages. Just like we discussed, we will have 3 pages, one for home, one for admin home, one for user home. And regarding the dependencies, I have added only 2 simple dependencies. The first one is Spring Boot Starter Web, and the second one is Spring Boot Starter Time Leaf. This time leaf is added to show the web page, the contents for these screens: admin home, user home, and home. Let me run this project and show you the current situation or current working of this project. Let me open localhost 8080, and we have the home page here. That is directly accessible. We have the admin homepage. Currently, we haven't added Spring Security, so everything is accessible to everyone. That is admin home, and we have a user home. The user home is also accessible. So these are the 3 pages. Now we will add Spring Security framework into this project and make the necessary changes and learn how to use it. So the first thing for adding the Spring Boot security framework is to add that dependency. So we have a thing called Spring Boot Starter Security. Let me add that here. Implementation. It is like this. So similar to Spring Boot Starter Web and similar to Starter Time Leaf, you have to add the Spring Boot Starter Security, and this will add the necessary dependency for the framework. Let me build the project. Okay. Now the project is built. Let me run the program and show you what will happen by just adding a simple dependency. So now you can see in the output log, there are certain extra lines in the output, and it is saying using generated security password. So what is happening here is, even without providing any configuration, explicit configuration, it has already enabled the security for the application, and it is using a dynamically generated password. To show you how it works, let me open the Firefox and go to the home directory. Now you can see all the pages are protected under a login screen. So I can't even access the default home page, yet alone the user home. Everything is under an authentication wall, that is this login screen. So here, if you want to log in, you can try like user and then use the password provided here in the output. This will change. This will change every time you restart the application. So for this run, the password is that, and the username is always user. And let me do the sign in. And you can see we can now access the user page, user homepage, the admin homepage, and every page is accessible. So that is the basic authentication, the default authentication provided by the framework. Now let us see how we can control, because in the introduction we said that only the home page should be accessible for everyone. The admin and user home should be protected for its own users, right? So let us to do that, we need to create a new class to configure the Spring Security. So let me create a new class called Security Configuration. Security configuration. And here, the first thing we have to do is enabling the Spring Security like this. So enable Spring, enable security, web security. So this annotation is required to just tell that the whole security should be enabled. And then what we need to provide is like an configuration annotation similar to any other Spring Boot configuration class. Now what we have to do is we have to provide a bean here that will control the authorization. And that can be done like this. You have to provide an @bean annotation, then public security filter chain. And we have to provide a security filter chain, and it will access HTTP security. And so we have to provide a bean for the security filter chain class. So what we are doing here is it provided a default configuration for me and made everything behind the login screen. Here we can customize it. So using this bean, we can provide the customization. So let me customize it like this: return HTTP security dot authorize HTTP request. And here I can get a HTTP security registry and do the necessary customizations here. And here it has an error and it shows that there is unhandled exceptions so we have to throw an exception. And here we need to provide the necessary customization. So the first thing we need to do is to allow our home page to be accessible by everyone. So that we can do using this request matches method, and we will specify /home should be permitted by all. So what does this mean is the home directory should be accessible by everyone. Then the next request we have is like next requirement we have is registry.request matches, and we have the admin pages, and the admin pages should be accessible only to users who have admin access, and that can be controlled like this. So anything that start with the admin, because our URL here you can see the URL starts with admin for admin home. Anything that starts with admin has role of admin. So what this says is this admin page should be accessible to only the users who have admin role. We will talk about this admin role in detail and how to assign this role to users, that we will see in a moment. For now, let us just set up the configuration. Then we have registry.request matches, and here we have third type of request matching, that is for the user, normal user. So we will say has role user, right? So these are the three requirements for us. And we also need to provide registry.any request, any request authenticated. So what the line means is we have provided three special rules here, one for home, one for admin, one for user. And if there is any other URL that is not specified here, that requires authentication. That's what is meant by registry.any request.authenticated. Now it still shows an error. That is because we are supposed to build this HTTP security and then return it. Now all should be fine. I will take this to the next line, and that will be all. So we have provided proper authorization settings here. Now we need to create our users and give them the roles like admin and user roles. So the first thing we will do for users is we will see how to create in-memory users. We will create the users in the memory. I mean, we won't store it in the database or anything. We will just configure them in line in code here and try to log in with them. So to support users, you need to create another bean, and that bean is going to be user details service. And and we will create a bean like this. We have a user details service, and here we are supposed to create our users. So let us create our first user. So the first one is user details. I will create a normal user first. So normal user equals use this user Spring Security core user details user dot builder, and here we can provide all the necessary details for the user. So the first thing is going to be the username. I will give maybe genuine coder GC, and we have to provide the password. I will give the password just in a moment. Before that, I need to set the role here. And for the role, I will provide the normal user role for GC. So I will provide the user and the password. So the password is like we can give like 1234 here in plain text, but that is severely discouraged. I mean, that is a very bad approach, because here if we give the password in a plain text format, if anyone get access to this code, they can reverse engineer it. That is why it is always recommended to do proper encoding of the password so that it cannot be reverse engineered. I will explain that in detail. So the first thing we have to provide is like we have to encode this password in such a way that it cannot be reverse engineered. To do so, first we have to provide what kind of encoding techniques we are going to use for password. So for that I need another bean, and that is going to be public password encoder, and I will return new BCrypt password encoder. So at the end of this tutorial, we will talk about different password encoders available and their advantages and disadvantages. For now, just understand that there are many types of password encoders, and you can see them here. You can see Argon2, bcrypt, delegate password encoder, PK, PBKDF2 script, etc. So all these methods have its own advantages and disadvantages. We will talk about them at the end of this tutorial video. So for now, we will use the BCrypt password encoder. And here we cannot provide the password like this. We have to encode it. So for now, I will use an online encoder. So let me search for online BCrypt encoder. And I will use the first BCrypt generator, and I will give my password here 1234 and use the encrypt. And this give me this string, and I will put that string here. Okay. Now the good thing about this one is even if someone get access to this text, they won't be able to reverse engineer and understand that the original password was 1234. That is not possible. So that is why we do it. So we have given the bcrypt password for normal user, and we have to create one more user. That is going to be our admin user. And here for admin user, I will give the username as admin itself. And for password, let me create another password. So here I use 1234. Let me use 9876 and create another encoder format. And I will use that password here. And for the admin should be able to access everything, right? So it has a role of both admin and a user. So I will give it like this: admin comma user. So admin can access both the pages of admin and the user. And now we have to provide this to the user details service implementation. So I will provide in-memory user details manager. I have to provide new here, and it accepts the user details as an argument. So I will give normal user and admin users as the argument. So far so good. We have set up the authorization. We have set up the authentication credentials for our users. We have also specified what kind of password encoding we should use. So let me start the application. And let me take the browser and go to localhost 8080 and let me load the user home right now, and you can see nothing is coming. Even if I go into /login, it won't work. It is showing nothing actually. That is because we said that when we provided register any request authenticated, I told you that any request that is not mentioned here will not be allowed. Also, when we provided the special HTTP security here by customizing this, we got rid of the default login we had, the default login screen we had. So in order to re-add that, we have to provide an option here called form login. And by providing this form login, we can customize the form login here. So I will provide form login here. And inside form login, we need to permit access to this one for everyone. Just like the home page, this login screen should be accessible by everyone. Only then people can authenticate. So that is why we require this form screen.permit all. Now let us restart the program and see if it works. And one thing to note is that previously we saw a password mentioned here using generated password. A message was there. Now it is no longer there. That is because we are providing our own users and the default user is no longer valid. All right, let us go into the login screen again, and we are getting the login screen properly. So first thing I need to try is, let me try the normal user GC. So GC, and then I will use my password 1234. And you can see it has an error. It is showing an error because after login, we didn't specify which page to go. From here, what I will try is, I will try to access the page user home. And you can see the user home is accessible for me. And if I try to access admin home, it is showing me 403 forbidden error. What that means is you are not supposed to access this page, and this page is forbidden for you. We will be talking about how to customize this page and all. This is like the default one Spring provides. We can provide our own custom screen with custom messages like, oh, you are not allowed to access this one, etc. For now, I will try to log out. That you can do using the logout page. This is also provided by Spring by default. I have logged out. Now let me try to log in using the admin account. So admin 9876. Let me log in. And now let me try to access the admin home. And you can see the admin home is accessible. Both the user home and the admin home is accessible to me, and the home is directly accessible for everyone, so that is still accessible for me. So that is the basic idea of authentication and authorization, guys. We have loaded the user from the memory. Now the next step is to load these users from a SQL database. So let's see how we can do that. To load the users from the database, first we need to configure the database for our Spring Boot project. I'll be doing this quickly because talking about database connection and all is not in the scope of this tutorial. I'll just show you and give you a basic explanation. Okay. So first we will go into the build.gradle. We have to add two dependencies, one for the Spring Boot JPA and one for the MySQL connector. We'll be using the MySQL. And then in the build.application.properties, we have a thing called application.properties, and put some configuration in this file. And this content is like very simple content. Like this is the username and password for the database. And we are saying that we are using MySQL, and this line is for automatically creating the tables for the first time when we are running the program. And that's about the connection. We have to go back to the build.gradle and build the application so that the necessary libraries will be downloaded. So you can see it is downloading the necessary libraries. Let me just start the program and see if we can find any logs related to the database. And here it is. You can see there are some actions happening from the database side, like initialize the JPA repository, like that. Okay, so the database configuration is complete. Now, in order to log in users from the database, we have to first set up the schema, the class for the users. So that let us do like this. Let me create a package here for users. So for the user table, I will call the user as my user. I am using my user because there is already classes provided by Spring as user, so I don't want to have the conflict. That's why I'm calling it as my user. And here I will provide it as at entity, and I need to provide some values. So for ID, I will use a long ID. So this is going to be the primary key that I will mark it as at ID, and I have to use a generator value and strategy. Strategy equals maybe automatic strategy is fine. So that is the ID of the user. Then we need obviously a username for the user. Then we need a password for the user, so string password. And then I will add another thing called a private string role. So this role will be used to store the role information, like whether it is a user or an admin or a combination of both, etc. Now we need to provide some getter and setter, alt insert getter and setter, and that's pretty much about it. So we have the my user now, and now we have to provide a repository for the user. So let me load that. That is going to be user repository. So my user repository, and this is going to be an interface, and we have to extend it. We have to extend it from JPA repository. So JPA repository is like the class provided by Spring JPA that provides us all the necessary database services. So here I will provide my user and primary key class. So here our primary key for the my user is a long value. So I will provide it as here. Now what we need to do here is we need to provide a function to find a user by username, because during logging in, the user will be entering the so let me load the login page. So user will be first entering the username, and in order to match the password, we have to first find the user by username. So for that, I will provide like this: my user find by username. So I will find the user by username, and for that I will provide a username like this, string username. And sometimes the user exists, sometimes the user don't exist. So in order to avoid processing null value, I will put the optional here, and this is about the repository. Now what we need to do is we need to provide a user detail service. So why do we need a user detail service is, if you go into the security configuration, you know that we need a user detail service class here. Here we used in-memory user detail service manager. That is not enough. So for that, we are using a custom user detail service. So my user detail service like that, and I will implement it with the user details service. So we are creating a custom implementation for the user detail service. And when we implement a method, you can see that we have to implement a method called load user by username. So here what we need to do is there will be a username coming to this function. We need to search the database using this username and return the user details for the user. To do that, let me make use of the my user repository class. So I will auto wire it. So private my user repository. I will just name it as repository, and here I have to provide it as at service, so I can do the Spring dependency injection. And here we go. So here what we need to do is, first we will check the repository using the query find by username and look for the user. Here we will get the result like optional my user, right? Optional my user. And there could be two cases. If user exists, if user is present, if the user is present, we will prepare a user details for the user. And if they don't exist, we have to throw an exception. So here I will handle the else case first. So throw new username not found exception. So this is a special exception provided by the Spring security. So if you look into that username, you can see it is from org.spring framework security core. So this is a special exception, and we can provide the username here. So we can say, yeah, this username is not available. And if the user is present, we have to convert that into a user details. So we have already used the user detail here in the security configuration for in memory. So we have to build something like this from here, from this user object. So I will copy that user details like this. And rather than creating an object, I can just return it. So user.builder and the username. So what is the username? That is from my user, right? So what I will do is var user object equals user.get. And here from the user object, I will simply process them like user object.get username and user object.get password. So again, note that we are using the hashed password here or encoded password here. So when we create a user, we have to make the user my user dot password as an encoded value, right? So here get password, and here I have to provide some roles. The problem is like this access more than one role, and in the my user I have only one string. So what I will do is when there is more than one role, I will just use comma. So it will be like this. If there is both admin and user, I will put it like admin slash user, comma, admin comma user. Okay. Now let me do it like this. So here I will write a function called get role roles, and I will pass the user object here. And there are a couple of cases I will need to tell you. So the first case is if the user do not have any role attached to them. That means if the user role is empty, then I will simply return user. So no special roles, just a user, normal user role only. Otherwise, I will just split it. Whatever the value there is, I will just split it. So string dot split. What is the, yeah, sorry, it is user dot get role dot split. And here I can give comma. So if there is like a admin and a user, then it will return those two values. So instead of a single value, I will make this as an array. And here no problem. So here again, I need to convert it into an array. I will put it like this. I hope this is clear to you. So get roles. So we are providing the proper roles here. And that is pretty much about it. So we will process it, and if there is no user found, we will throw an exception. So that's about the user detail service class. Now we need to link this user detail service class into this security configuration. So I will comment this because we are no longer interested in the in-memory users, and I will create another bean here, public user detail service, and I will make it as a bean, of course, bean. And here I need to return the my user detail service class. So I will do the dependency injection here. So private my user detail service, I I will get the object here, simply return it like this, return user detail service. So far so good. One thing we need to do is like we need to tell the user detail service or the authentication provider what kind of password encoding and what kind of authentication we are going to use. And in order to do that, there is an important thing called authentication provider. So we have to provide another bean here. I will tell you why it is required in detail in a moment. So public authentication provider that provides no argument. And here we have to create a class called a DAO authentication provider. This is also from the Spring Boot security core, Spring Security Core. So provider new DAO authentication provider. So DAO authentication provider, what does it mean is DAO means data access object. So this is for like explicitly created for loading users from the database or any other data access layer and use it for authentication. So here we have to provide two things. So provider dot set user detail service, and we will provide the user detail service here. And we also need to tell them what kind of password encoder we are using. So here we are using the BCrypt password encoder. So I will just give that as here. Then we have to simply return the provider. And that's about it. That's about the configuration. We have like authentication provider, user detail service, and that is it. Okay, let us run the program. Keep in mind that we will not be able to use the program because we do not have any users in the database, but still let us see if it is properly loading. So I will go into the login page now, refresh it, and provide maybe some other values like maybe GC1234. And you can see there is an error, bad credential, because there are no users in the database. It is searching in the database, but there are no users. So the next thing we need to do is to create some users. How to create some users? So for that, I will create a new controller here. So maybe registration controller. Registration controller. And I will make it as at REST controller because it is going to be a REST API. And I will provide a post mapping here with maybe like a register and register user. Okay. And a public my user create, maybe just create user. And here I want to do it like this. So at request body, my user, so I will receive a user from here. I will use postman to create a user. So basically I will send a user here. I will save them to the database and return it. Okay, so for that, in order to save to the database, I need access to the repository. So my user repository, my user repository, my user repository. And here what I will do is return my user repository dot save and user. And there is one problem here. That is like whenever I send a password, it will be in the plain text format. You know that we'll be using the password from the my user and give it. It is supposed to be an encoded value. So before saving the user, we have to update their password to make it encoded or encrypted, right? So for that, I can set it like this: set password. So I will get the password, whatever password I have provided, and then encode it. To get the encoder, I can auto wire it here. So private password encoder, password encoder. So this will give me the BCrypt encoder because we configured the bean here. So registration controller, we will take the password encoder and we will encode the password, right? We will encode the password and simply save it to the database. And there is one more thing we have to do. This is a new endpoint register / user. And as per the security configuration, we will not be able to access that link because we did not permit it, right? We said that any URL that is not mentioned here should be authenticated. But let's try. Let us try and make sure that what I am telling is true. I will not be able to access it. So you will be you can confirm it, right? So let me open Postman and let me show you how it fails. So let me create a new request, new HTTP request. It is going to be a post request and it is going to be localhost 8080 / register / user. Let me confirm the URL for a moment. Registration controller. So register user. That's good. So we have the register user and the body we will give a JSON value. So here text JSON. And here we have to provide a username for the user. So here to the database, I will provide genuine coder itself, like the last one, GC. And for password, I will give the clear text here directly as 1234 itself because it will be encoded in the controller, registration controller. And then for roles, let me use GC has only the user role. Let's say it is a normal user, so only has user role. Let me confirm the schema here. So role, password, and username. And let me check here. Role. So it should be a role because I didn't add a role. Yes, plural there. So role, password, and username. Now let me try this by sending a request. And you can see there is a message called please sign in because I am not allowed to access this without authentication. To fix that, we need to go into the security configuration and provide that here. So here I need to permit like whatever start with the register, permit it, make it available for everyone, public, right? Then let me run the program again. Let's just wait for the app to start. And let me open the Postman and let's just send a request again. And it failed again. So it failed again. So this time we have allowed it to access via the and matcher. So the matcher says that you should be able to access it. But the problem here is like there is another setup here called CSRF. So CSRF is called a cross-site request forgery. I will show you a Google Bard question here. So when you enable Spring Security, by default, the CSRF, it is a prevention for a common attacking method, cross-site request forgery technique. And by default, in order to save the user, it is enabled, CSRF is enabled, and all the post requests are blocked. So that is why our request is getting blocked here. So what we need to do is, since this is only for generating a user data for our test purpose, I will just disable it. So HTTP security configurer dot disable, right? And it can be converted into a lambda function. So abstract HTTP configure dot hash disable. So now the post request should not be blocked. And since we have allowed it here using the permit function, we should be able to create a new user here. So let us keep the fingers crossed and run it again. And here we go. So we have created our first user, username GC, and you can see it automatically replaced the 1234 with the proper encoded password. And I have the role of user. To test this, let me open the browser. Let me refresh the page, right? So let me just go into login. Maybe I will try to access the user homepage. So I will try to go into user home and it is asking me to log in. So I will give the GC1234 as the password and sign in. And you can see we signed in. So now the sign in happened through the database user. And it is saying welcome user. If I try to access the admin panel, admin home, it is saying it is forbidden because for the normal user, it is forbidden. I will just log out. And I will just try the previous credentials like admin 9876. And if I try to do so, it is bad credential. That is because the database, we haven't created the user in the database. I will just show you the MySQL database situation. So this is the MySQL workbench and the my user is created. Let me see the data, select rows. And you can see there is only one user, GC user. So let us go ahead and create the second user, admin. And here I will give the password as 9876. And for the role, I have two roles. So the first thing is admin role and the second thing is the user role. I will make the request, admin user sent, very good. And now I will try to log in. So admin 9876 and let us sign in. And it has an error, not found. Yeah, that is because that page is not available, right? After login, we haven't provided where to go after login. So I will go to admin/home and you can see the admin page is accessible. And both the user home page is also accessible and the default home page is also accessible because the user is an admin user. So that is how you authenticate user from a database. So we have used the MySQL database and our users are properly getting authenticated. I will create one more user. So just to show you, so I will create another admin user. So maybe idea, and I will use the password as like 1111 and I will send it. So I can have more than one admin user or any number of users is supported. I'll just show you. So here I will do a logout, right? Logged out, and I will try to access my admin page, admin homepage. I need to log in. So I will use Anya, then 1111, sign in, and I am signed in. So you can have any number of users and it is all up to you. So that's it, guys. That's how you use the authentication from the database side. Next, let us see how to add some custom error pages. Right now, if I log out and log in as a normal user, let me log in as like GC 1234 and I will log in. And here, first of all, there is a 404 page. I want some other page. And I want to show the forbidden page better because right now, if I try to access the admin homepage, it is just showing type forbidden status 403. What if I want some nice pages, nice HTML pages. So let's see how we can do that. In order to create a page for this one HTML page. To save some time, I will use ChatGPT, and I will ask ChatGPT to design a page for me. So create HTML only code, HTML only page, create full HTML page in a single file, CSS plus HTML. That's what I meant. Single file for the error page with pause 403 forbidden. Let's see if it creates it properly. Yeah, okay. And the CSS is there, the error message is there. Yeah. Let us copy this. So this is the page we want to show. And to do this, what you can do is you can create a folder inside resources called public. And within that, create a folder called error. Sorry, I made a mistake. Rename. Let me open it. Open File Explorer. I will just rename this as error. Okay. Now we are good. Now I will create a new file here, and I will name the file as 403.html. This is very important. So for the 403 error, this page will be loaded by the by the Spring Boot. So let us try this, right? So I will open the admin. I will try to open the admin home by giving the username GC1234. That should cause a forbidden error. Sign in, and you can see we have a nice forbidden page. So this way, for any error code, you can provide a proper error page. So we have seen like a 404, right? If I try to access admin, do something like that, it is an invalid page. So let me try something. Sample 123. You can see I have like a status 404, a not found exception. So for that case, let's say I need another page, then I can do it with the ChatGPT. So create another one for 404 error. And I can provide a 404 HTML page there. And for 404 errors, it will load that page. So is the generation complete? Yeah, generation complete. I will create a new page called 404.html. Paste the content here, and let's see. So localhost, other than login, let me try some random page. I haven't restarted the project. That's why it is not loading. I have restarted the project. Okay, in any page requires authentication, right? So that is why it is asking for me to log in before accessing that page. So I will access it as GC1234, and you can see 404.found because this page does not exist. So that's it. That's it. How you handle special error cases and provide customized pages for that. Next, let us see how to customize a login page. So by default, we have this login page from the Spring Boot. And let's say you want a customized solution with your own logo and your own styles. So let's see how we can do that. So using ChatGPT, I will create a simple login page so we don't have to spend time with creating that. So I will ask ChatGPT here, like create a simple login screen to use as login form for Spring Boot. I will ask it to create one, and let's see. So ChatGPT is creating a nice login screen for me, and I will use this HTML code, this login screen, and put it here inside templates, and let me name it as a custom login.html, right? So this is a simple one. These are all CSS. I have one input field, two text fields. The first one for username, the second one for password, and there is a submit a button called login, and that's it. Very simple, and it will make a post request to the login. That's it. No complex logic here. And we have to provide some customization here in the security configuration to support this custom login screen. So here you might remember we set the form login here, and we said that, yeah, you need to permit this for everyone. So other than permitting, we have to provide some customization here. So for that, I will provide it like this: HTTP security form login configurer. And here I can specify the special login page here. And here I will say, go to /login and permit all. So this is the default one. We are still using the /login. If you want to have some special login screens, like maybe login, security login like that, you can provide your endpoint here or login URL here. So here I am keeping it as /login itself. And in the content controller, we have 3 pages. And here I need to provide a special mapping for the login so that our own custom HTML page will be loaded. So /login and handle login. And here I have to provide the custom login so that the new HTML will be loaded. So custom login. So far, so good. We will restart the application. Let me refresh the app, and you can see we got a very new, much better looking login screen, I would say. And let me try to access the user page. And here we are. We can enter the username. So GC1234, then handle login, and you can see we are logged in. So that is how you provide custom login screen. That is also very easy, similar to the custom error screens we have implemented. Simply provide the proper mapping and create the HTML, and that's it. You can have your own custom HTML page. And you can also do the same for logout. It is very similar to login, so I am not providing that. So for /logout also as well, you can provide your own logout screens. Next, let us look into another problem we have. Right now, after login, as you might have already figured it out, we have a problem. Like if I log in as like a GC1234, it goes into a 404 error page, right? Because we don't have a /home page. The question is like, what if we want to go to a special page? Like after a user logs in, if the user is a normal user, I want to automatically go into the user homepage. And if it is an admin user, I want to automatically go into the admin homepage, right? So how can we do that rather than going into this 404 error page? So let us see how to do that. So in order to do this, we have to customize our form login page. So right now we have specified the path for the login page. On top of that, we have another option called success handler. So this success handler allows us to customize what to do next once the authentication is successful. So it accepts a authentication success handler object. So let us create a new one here, new Java class. And here I will name it as authentication success handler. And I will extend it with a saved request authentication success handler. This class, saved request aware authentication success handler, that comes from the Spring Security module itself. And we need to override a method called, the name of the method is on authentication success. So we can do some code here once the authentication is successful. There is a function here, like I will show you, that has set default target URL. So here we can specify which URL should it take once the login is successful. So we have to add some logic here based on which user got authenticated, right? So for that, first we need to determine whether the logged in user is an admin user. So I will create a Boolean function is admin. And how do we determine the admin user? When it is an admin user, our user's role will have a value either, our user's role will have a value admin, right? So we need to look for the admin value. So is admin equal authentication get authorities. So the authority is derived from the role. Actually, role will become the authority. So we can do it like this. Authorities dot stream. Then we need to look for any match, like if the granted authority equals. So let me check what is the type. So granted authority get authority equals, what is the authority we need? Admin. And we have specified only role. We didn't specify authority. So when role become an authority, there is a role behind that. So admin will become role admin, and a normal user will become role underscore user. So first we will look for whether it is an admin user. If it is an admin user, we will set the default target URL as the /admin /home. So it will go into the admin's home. Else we will set it as default user home. So I will set it as user/home. Now we need to link this into the security configuration. So success handler, new authentication success handler, right? We will provide the success handler like that. Now let us restart the program. Now the application is starting. Let me take the browser and let us load the localhost 8080/login page, our login page. And here, let us give the credentials of an admin user. And it should automatically load the admin homepage, right? So let us try that. So admin 9876. And you can see we have successfully logged in as an admin. And this works for the user as well. So this is because we in the success handler we can specify like what kind of authorization the user have and then make a decision based on that. So that is how you automatically forward to a link just after the successful login. Now, another important thing I need to show you is like the comparison of password encoders. So during the security configuration setup at the beginning of this tutorial, we said that there are multiple password encoders and we are using BCrypt password encoder for the time being. So if we look into the password encoder implementations, you can see a lot of password encoders. So we have the Argon2, BCrypt, delegate and Scrypt, etc. So I will show you a comparison between these password encoders and go through the points. So let me take the comparison table. I have prepared a table for you. And here I will compare 4 most important password encoders. So we have the Argon2, BCrypt, Scrypt, and PBKDF2. Okay, so we are right now using the BCrypt, which is the most commonly used method. And if you look the ideal for, what is it ideal for? It is ideal for web applications and legacy systems. That is because each encoders have their own CPU and memory requirements, right? So if you look into the memory usage, it is moderate only. So web applications usually runs for a lot of customers in a restricted hardware resource, right? Like if you are running a program on your system, you can use your whole memory and whole RAM. But in the web applications or in the legacy systems, the resources are limited. So each CPU cycle counts or each MB of RAM counts. So memory and CPU usages are very important for certain applications. And for BCrypt, it is only moderate. And what about the CPU GPU resistance? So what this means is nowadays the encryption can be broken with very powerful systems, especially GPUs. So with the advent of AI, the CPUs and GPUs, especially the GPUs, are getting really powerful, and it can run billions of operations per second, and you can cascade them. If one GPU can do maybe like 10 billion operations per second, you can purchase 10 GPUs and make it 100 billion. So if a encryption method an encoder method is susceptible to the GPU processing, or if it is vulnerable for GPU, then we have a big problem. So that is the problem with the PBKDF2. You can see it is vulnerable to GPUs and ASICs. ASICs is like the kind of system that they use for mining, like Bitcoin mining and all. So it has the lowest security right now. And you can see the CPU GPU resistance as poor. So if you ask me like which one should I use for your application, that totally depends on like your environment and how much security you need. If you want the highest security, go with Argon2 because it has the highest security out of these 4 options. And the second highest security comes from Scrypt, right? There is always a trade-off. The problem with the Argon2 is that it is computationally expensive. The memory usage is high, but it is more secure, but the memory usage is high and it is computationally expensive. That means the CPU also has to work harder to make the encryption. So there is no simple choice here. It is always like there is no free lunch kind of method. You have to choose what is right for you and choose the password encoder wisely. And I think that's it, guys. We have covered a lot of topics in this tutorial. I will just take the content section. So in order to recap the tutorial, we talked about the authorization and authentication. So authentication is like logging in using the username and password, and authorization is specific roles, what you are allowed to access and what you are not supposed to access. And then we saw how to load users from the memory and in-memory users. And then we talked about database users, like we connected to MySQL and then loaded the users from the database. We talked about custom error pages. We talked about custom login page implementations. And we talked about the multiple password encoders we have in the Spring Boot. And I think that is the end of this tutorial. Thank you for watching this video. See you on the next one. Bye.